Morning, morning, morning. Morning, Roxanne. Thank you as always for my brooms. Yes, all is well. Maria Kani, morning, morning. Donna Walcott. Cyril Mayas, morning, sir. Gabriel Philip, good morning. Carol Boyce John, morning to you. Udani, morning. Ruben Rogers, morning to you. Christopher Sylvester, morning. Annette Neptune, morning, Annette. Leonard Harris, morning. Althea, morning to you. Alberta Sampath, morning. Glenn Richardson, morning, sir. Deborah Duranti, morning to you. See who we have on Facebook. Carol Myers, morning, Carol. Arthur James, John Edwards, morning to you. Morning, Diane. And Charles. Yeah, same on my side, Carol. Sun this morning. Tell it is bipolar weather that we having. Yeah. Good morning to His Excellency, the President of Pleasantville, Nigel O'Connor, and First Lady Marcia Keegan. Let's see something here. Deborah Duranti, morning, Deborah. Jennifer Nathan, morning, Jennifer. Judy Bowen, Alison Boyce, morning, guys. Mario Che Guevara, morning, sir. Maria Lyons, morning, morning. Jocelyn Small White, morning to you. Anton Batiste, morning. Where is this story? Okay, just looking for this thing here. So I have to jump off a little earlier this morning, but yeah, let's see. That's what I'm looking for. Emerson Brown, morning to you. Renwick Roberts, Jefferson Clark, Marlene Panton, morning, guys. Gertrude. Eva Smith Spivey, morning to you. Freddie Williams, morning. Heather Chandler, morning to you. Annette Neptune, morning, Annette. Candice Joseph, Gemma Alexander, morning, guys. Shireen Jacques, Judy Small, morning, Joy. Garnet Greenwich, morning to all of you guys. Right, so let me jump into it one time, as I said just now. This is another early morning, so I have to jump off a little early, but nevertheless, the cough is coming along, Roxanne. It's not as acute as it was before. Taking some stuff, African sea coconut, and I tried the lime and honey and all of that. So I'm seeing some improvement. Thank you so much. Eva Harris, morning. Wazid, morning. Right, so let me jump into it one time. So I came across a letter to the editor in the newspaper last week. I was supposed to touch on it and I didn't get a chance to. Right, as I remembered it last night, I said I have to touch on it because it's one of those egregious letters to the editor that causes you to stop and think and to ask the question whether or not these newspapers, if the editors read these things before they publish it, or they're just looking to fill space in the newspaper and they publish anything that anybody sends in, right? And this letter is by a gentleman by the name of Curtis O'Brady, and it's entitled "Time for the PNM to Keep Promises." He says, year after year, residents of Laventille have shown their unwavering support for the PNM, only to be met with empty promises and unfulfilled commitments. Late Prime Minister Patrick Manning pledged 300 million investment in Laventille, a promise that has remained unrealized to this day. And in stark contrast, it was during the tenure of Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar and the UNC from 2010 to 2015, a tangible development was seen in Laventille. Let me repeat that. In stark contrast, it was during the tenure of Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar and the UNC from 2010 to 2015, a tangible development was seen in Laventille. Here's what he considers tangible development. The UNC built a home for the Laventille Rhythm section, provided land for the Black Agenda to house cultural and community activities, and allocated land to the Spiritual Shelter Baptist Religion. among other initiatives. You know, when they put things like among other initiatives, it tells me you can't think of nothing else, but you just felt like putting that there as a filler, right? Because if you could have think of anything else, you would have put it. Because to me, the three things that you mentioned to some extent are minor, right? So if there was anything else significant, you would have posted it there, but you didn't, among other initiatives. Like, right. These actions demonstrate a genuine commitment to community and its development. The current PNM government, however, appears to lack a coherent strategy for addressing the deep-seated issues of poverty, injustice, inequality, and rampant crime that plague that community. After 9 years in power, there is little to show in terms of meaningful progress or improvement in the lives of Laventille residents. And it is time for the PNM to take responsibility for its failures and to start delivering on its promises. The Laventille community deserves better. The country needs leaders who are truly committed to developing and to uplifting citizens out of the cycle of poverty and crime. Until then, the support that Laventille has historically given to the PNM cannot be justified by mere rhetoric and unkept promises. One Curtis O'Brady, right? And so, as I said, I felt I just needed to touch on that quickly. First of all, Mr. O'Brady's reference to late Prime Minister Patrick Manning pledging $300 million investment in Laventille, a promise that has remained unrealized to this day. I don't know if Mr. O'Brady living under a rock or if it is that he just woke up from his deep slumber like Rip Van Winkle. Right? But I recall Mr. Manning, one of the things that Mr. Manning put in place was the Laventille Technical Institute, which was formerly the old Remand, to be able to provide opportunities, educational opportunities for persons from that particular area. But as the saying goes, you can lead the horse to water, but you can't force it to drink, right? And to the best of my knowledge, that facility still exists. But apparently Mr. O'Brady is not aware of that. And with respect to the current administration, so while he mentions here the UNC built a home for the Laventille Rhythm section, okay, so that would have benefited a specific cohort of persons from Laventille. He speaks here, they provided land for the Black agenda to house cultural and community activities, and allocated land to the Spiritual Shelter Baptist Religion, among other initiatives. The PNM would have provided land as well to the Spiritual Shelter Baptists, albeit not in Laventille, but for them to be able to build their cathedral, I think is somewhere in Cuba, thereabouts, right? But in the PNM, built 2 swimming pools, one in Mova and one in Laventille, which is very much in use today and is benefiting the citizens of and the residents of Laventille, because it's not just that they build a pool and say, hey, right, we put a pool there so we could see we did that. They went further, a step further, to engage the, I think it's the Coast Guard, members of the Defense Force, who offer different types of activities there. So we would have posted a video not too long ago on the debunking page on Facebook, showing residents of some of the more mature residents of Laventille engaging in aquatics, right? Free of charge, under the guidance of the Coast Guard and I think members of the Defense Force, something that the residents are quite appreciative of. They also, as far as I know, offer swimming lessons to the youth in the area, right? So we don't, whereas before, we would have focused on people like George Bovell and Siobhan Cropper and these guys and Dylan Carter and so on. Where did they live? Where did they come from? Not Laventille. As I say, idle hands are the devil's workshop. And so when you create opportunities, activities like that for young people, otherwise the parents would have to find money to send them to some maybe Flying Fish or one of these other swimming facilities so that they could learn to swim, and probably provide them with an opportunity to be the next George Bovell or Dylan Carter. But the government has provided them with the facilities at no cost to them. But Mr. O'Brady, apparently he's not aware of that. I know that the government would have put together a team led by Mr. Anthony Watkins and include people like Hans Devines and so on, to go into the community of Laventille and have discussions with them. with the persons, the young people inside it, to find out what are the issues and how the government could be of assistance. Apparently, Mr. O'Brady, he's not aware of that. Forget about that too. Right? Now, we know for a fact that anytime this administration or any PNM administration does anything that, and I'm fed up saying this, does anything that even hints at affirmative action for persons from Laventille and Beta and Sealots and so on, the UNC is always quick to cry discrimination, that the government is discriminated on the basis of race. And take, for example, what's happening in East Port of Spain, right? Which parts of Laventille will include, where the government, through the East Port of Spain Development Company Limited, is creating entrepreneurship programs that are specifically targeting persons of East Port of Spain. No other area, persons of East Port of Spain, because the government recognizes that that particular area requires special attention. Special attention. And there is pushback from persons who support the UNC, asking, so I'm to the rest of the country. The rest of the country, well, we can't get nothing to. And there are so many, but the rest of the country was getting, nobody was asking, so what about the East Port of Spain? And what about Laventille? And what about Mova? Nobody was asking about Beta and Sealots. The only time those words or those names come out of their mouth is when they need to back talk those areas to say, serial children that are responsible for committing crime coming from these areas. They have nothing good to say about any of these areas. And when the government is doing things to improve these areas, to reduce the crime rate in these areas, the only thing they could come to talk about is, so what about the rest of the country? Yeah, they're looking to put money in the pockets of the criminal element. Yeah, they're feeding their own. They wouldn't say kudos to the government for doing something, taking a firm hand in trying to deal with the social issues affecting these areas. No, they wouldn't commend the government for that. Only criticism, right? Put a stop to it. So they're vexed because East Port of Spain is benefiting. When the government said, here, we're going to develop East Port of Spain and environs, and they're going all the way up the Eastern Main Road, I think up to Pashley Street or somewhere there, Erica Street, and going all the way up there. Going to spend money to develop all those areas. Was it not the UNC that dropped out themselves to talk about, tell the people, hey, they only commenters, they say they come in to develop, but they want to take all their property and take all their land and give it to the 1%. And don't study them, they say they will move all and then bring all back. But that's not the plan and all of that. Don't listen to them and don't take them on and don't let them this and don't let them that. Apparently, Mr. O'Brady is not aware of that. Maybe he was asleep when these things were happening. But I take issue with the newspapers publishing this foolishness. But then again, as Mr. Imbud rightly said, the media, recognizing the UNC is weak, has decided to assist them by doing their work for them, publishing trash like that. So I don't know if it is perhaps some of these journalists, or I wouldn't even call them journalists, media practitioners. They're missing the $1,000 voucher that Kamala used to give them every year for Christmas, as a thank you. And maybe they need her to come back because they need those $1,000 vouchers, grocery vouchers. Because Rowley ain't giving me that. The PNM ain't giving me no $1,000 voucher. They're missing the opportunity. All who they give HDC houses to. Apparently, this government is not partial to giving the media, members of the media, HDC houses. Yeah? So they're doing whatever it is they can, however little or however much, to be able to assist the UNC to get back in power so that they could once again eat our food and drink our juice. As I said, we don't have journalists in this country. What we have is bacchanalists posing as journalists. And it's the same thing with the editors in all these newspapers. When you read some of this foolishness, who really are the editors? Stop hiding behind the term editor. Publish your names. Something had to be wrong with all here. But anyway. So, as I would have said on Sunday, I was certain that there would be persons who upset, who would, in the aftermath of the passage of Beryl, would be upset that there wasn't more damage, or that there wasn't more rain and more wind and so on. Complaining they went and spending money to stock up on this, that, the other, and the next, and then the projected outcome wasn't what it was supposed to be. How foolish and how silly could some people be? That you upset that you didn't get your roof blown off, or that other people didn't get their roofs blown off? You're upset that there wasn't widespread damage that would require tens and hundreds of millions of dollars to fix. You're upset about that? That there wasn't sufficient damage so that you could stay home for 3-4 days while the authorities and the agencies assess the damage and see what could be done? Tell you Trinidad, when they say Trinidad is not a real place, things like that supports that position. But not surprising. But it's just the start of the hurricane season. Beryl was a record in that. It's I think the first time a hurricane of that magnitude would have formed so early in the season, and this especially in this area, this geographical area, and so it has the meteorologists and others concerned as to what we could expect over the course of the next 5 months up until the end of November. They want to know if Beryl is foreboding of what is to come, because I think it's still at Category 4 as it makes its way now to Jamaica. But while Trinidad and Tobago was spared once again, there's some minor damage in Tobago with some fallen trees and so on. And I saw people, like, Pollard and Pastor Beans and them. Saw some video footage of them in Tobago yesterday. They come out early with cutlass and raincoat. So they cut in trees to clear the road. Well, they're really trying to fool. Really? All these stunts that they pull in. That is what you do when you have absolutely nothing to show. After 2.5 years, when you have nothing to show for your tenure, or precious little to show for your tenure, so you had to try and mama guide the people. Look, the secretaries and them coming out with their cutlass and stuff. Say they cut in a tree. But they were happy. You had somebody call, hey, Benz, where am? Where Trevor? Because Benz under Trevor now. Tell him I have a tree up in a tree fall across half the road in Delaford, boy. Well, let go down there quick before Watson reach, Yeah, if Watson near that, he reaching there with the power saw. So let me tell you, get all your cutlass quick, and see how quick all you can reach up there to deal with that. And they had to do, Baines had to do a whole video to post up on Facebook for all of their propaganda machinery to post it out and see the THA assemblymen at work. Cutting 2-3 branches. The tree fall across half the road. And that is thing for you to publish. Baines in the division that is responsible for those things. You could just make a call and get them fellas to come out because it was Monday. It's a work day. But they have nothing to do in all the office. But say, let me get 2 rusty cutlass and go down the road and do some video footage showing we cutting 3 branch and we clearing the road. Bunch of posers. Seriously? To say what? You wouldn't see Faris Al-Rawi and then I see Faris a cutlass too. Jokers. But they're not serious across the interview. No, and then they're praising Fali. What Fali do? Fali hold 2-3 press conference and I see people think that is chief secretary and yes, and they supporting Fali and they're so proud of Fali and all that. For what? For sitting down and yapping? He probably vexed that it wasn't more damage for him to beg for more money. So we say, hey, yeah, boy, the opportunity here for me to go and tell him, but I need another 50 million because we need to fix this and fix that. But that's what they're praising across the mediocrity. As I had to tell one of them, a member of the propaganda machinery, the Bacchanal campaign, I had to tell them, you praising Fali for what? Clearly your standards of excellence must be pretty low for you to be praising Fali. I saw another one post up, a picture with Fali at the press conference. And the caption is, Chief Secretary Fali Augustine addressing Tobago ahead of the storm. And then they have a picture of Dr. Rowley in a mosque sleeping. And they just have the caption Rowley. So I had to tell them, I said, but Dr. Rowley had 4 of Dr. Rowley's ministers held a press conference to address the nation. 4 of them, but you wanted the Prime Minister to hold a press conference, a separate press conference, to repeat what the 4 of them said. They're so desperate across there in Tobago, and that is TPP. Again, when you have precious little to show, after spending over $5 billion in 2.5 years, and you have precious little to show for it, that's what you have to resort to. Show videos and stuff of actual things that you will have done to progress Tobago. You can't do that. So you have to create dotish memes with the Prime Minister sleeping to compare him to Fali Augustine. and say the Prime Minister ain't doing nothing. That's why the Prime Minister has a cabinet. That's why his cabinet ministers, four of his cabinet ministers, who have responsibility for different areas that would treat with any damage, right? Because they would be on the ground. That is their job. That is their responsibility, to be on the ground and to report. So even if the Prime Minister had a press conference, he would have just bring the four of them and he would have just served as what chairman of the press conference and they would have speak. Prime Minister doesn't need to be everywhere. That's why he has competent ministers to treat with that. And they would have had more than one press conference. But they bacchanal and them across there in Tobago. Nothing to show. And so that's all they could do. Pull stunt up, say you're pulling cutlass to go and cut trees. And then the next one, what's in Duke? After you're complaining last week, you're poor and you're broken and you can't pay your bills. You decide to do he goes to Tobago and decides to do a video yesterday to show the little damage around his 3-story mansion in Tobago. Yeah? A 3-story mansion in Tobago. So if people had forgotten about that, Watson, as I did, you reminded us, hey, broken and a poor and a suffering, I can't pay my bills, I have a credit card with an outstanding balance of 130,000 and I can't pay my mortgage and pay this and I'm suffering and I need my pension from PSA. But yeah, behind me right here, yes, you see that? Yes, I'll never forget I have a 3-story mansion in Tobago in Delaford. Thank you for reminding us of that, Watson, how a broken person is. Thanks. We appreciate it. Yeah. All of them, bunch of stunters and fakers. And again, these are the things I just have to ask him. If it is that the judicial officers don't take note of these things, when these people making these claims. So it's like Inshan Ishmael in that case against Krokro, when he claimed that as a result of Krokro's calypso and the calls to boycott his business, he was losing about at least $100,000 a month in business because of the calls for boycott. But then as soon as you win the case, 2 days later, you're going on your Breaking Barriers program to say, every time they call for a boycott, the more they call for boycott is the more money I make and the more business I get. So keep on calling for boycott. Keep it coming. I wonder if Justice C. Prasad heard that. You didn't ask for any evidence from Mr. Ishmael to prove that you lost $100,000. We just take it at face. Yes, that's what you say. All right, we will take that. The court is not inclined to ask the claimant to provide any evidence. He says so, and we will take that. So Watson say he broken to thief, can't pay his mortgage, can't pay his credit card bills. Right now he's suffering. The 2 tin of corned beef and the tin of Vienna sausage is all he has in the cupboard. You don't know where money coming from to pay the bills at the end of the month. But doesn't he receive a salary as an assemblyman in the Tobago House of Assembly? Doesn't he receive that? And as I pointed out, all the millions that his wife got, where it gone? Where you're suffering. You can't pay your bills. So all and foolishness, yes. Foolishness and folly. Anyway, as I said, must see what's the time. So, in the parliament yesterday, the parliament debate, it wasn't a debate. There was no debate. The government brought back the bail amendment bill, which it did 2 years ago, and which failed in the parliament because the bill required the support of the opposition in order to pass because it is a bill that seeks to deny in certain circumstances bail for certain offenders. It infringes on persons' constitutional rights to apply for bail, and therefore any law that impacts or negatively impacts or infringes on a person's constitutional rights in any way must be passed with a majority of the parliamentarians, because remember the parliamentarians represent 41 constituencies, which constitutes the entirety of the population of Trinidad and Tobago. So when members of parliament vote, the assumption is that they are voting on behalf of their constituents. They are speaking on behalf of the constituents. So if at least 26 members of the lower house vote in favor of the bill, then it means a majority of the population has spoken through their parliamentary representative to say that they are in support of these legislative measures. Right? Of course, we know most parliamentarians do not consult with their constituents. One reason or the other. We know because you can't go and talk to everybody in your constituency. Not that that is necessary. But the assumption is that by virtue of the fact that you had the vote, that means that your constituents endorse you, right? So the government brought back the bail amendment bill, and it passed seamlessly. 38 out of 41 members of the parliament voted in favor of the bill. A far cry from the last time that this bill came to the House, where the UNC made it abundantly clear that they would not support the bill because it is a draconian bill and it impinges on the rights of citizens, the constitutional rights and so on, and that the government is clueless as to how to treat with crime. And they figured that the only way they could deal with crime is to lock up people and not give them bail. That was the arguments coming from the opposition 2 years ago. The bill came back yesterday. And the only person who spoke on the opposition side was Mrs. Prasad-Bisesa, who is more often than not absent from Parliament, but she was most present yesterday so that she could speak. And that was very telling for those of us who may have looked at it, right? So I was home yesterday and I happened to be flipping through channels. I said, let me see what's going on the Parliament channel. And lo and behold, when I switched, I saw Mrs. Prasad-Bisesa was speaking at the time. And then, to my surprise, when she said, I want to let the government know off the bat that we will be supporting this bill. And of course, there was their stomping from the government side. And she also went on to say, but I will be the only person who will be speaking on this side. We will have no other speakers. Quite interesting. No other speakers. When she was finished, the Prime Minister got up and he spoke and he indicated that he would be the only, well, in light of the fact that there would be no other speakers after Prasad-Bisesa on the opposition side, there was no need for anybody to speak after him. Even except for the Attorney General, who would have piloted the bill, and in his winding up, he would speak. But good old Doc didn't miss the opportunity to throw some jabs at Mrs. Prasad-Bisesa in the 22 and a half minutes that he spoke. He raised the issue of Mrs. Prasad-Bisesa talking about imminent elections and so on, and the Prime Minister had to tell her, pat down, I don't intend to call the elections anytime soon. All right? Relax. He said, and then he quoted a former, I think, British Prime Minister or something, I think, who said, a week in politics is a long time. And she kept saying, is a day. No, the quote is actually, a week in politics is a long time. And the Prime Minister told her, we have many weeks left before the general election. So you have a long time still to your third defeat. So relax. Pat down. All right? But Doc always on point. He never misses an opportunity. But what was... anyway, let me get this here. Right. So, give me 1 second here. I just like Prasad-Bisesa yesterday. She and Munilal, the other day when Munilal come to debate, one set of papers all over the desk. And if you see them fighting, Madam Speaker, give me a moment, I'm trying to find. A whole set of files and all kind of things. The majority of the papers they come with, they didn't use. So what was the sense of bringing it? But you see her yesterday, where is this, the Akini Charles thing? So give me 1 moment, Madam Speaker. Let me see. And because she fumbling through, she couldn't find it. Well, I can't find it. All set of old papers all over the desk for what? Serving no useful purpose. Anyway. So, let me get this here. Right. But Mrs. Prasad-Bisesa yesterday seemed quite humbled. She told the government, this is not a garbage bill. Really, it's not a garbage bill. Most of the bills that the government brings, they call it garbage. She said they only supporting good legislation that they know will not come before the court. So, I asked the question, what changed between 2 years ago and now? What changed, Mrs. Prasad-Bisesa, that would have resulted in your decision to support the bail bill? Because in my listening to the presentation of the Attorney General yesterday, aside from 1 or 2 amendments, There wasn't much change to the bill. But I heard her yesterday say, well, they proffered one or two amendments and so on. But it was never about amendments, because if you come in to tell us the reason why you support the bill this time around is because you offered amendments to the bill and the government accepted the amendments. The question then must be asked, why didn't you bring those amendments 2 years ago? You weren't even willing 2 years ago to entertain a debate, far less to even bring amendments. Because their argument 2 years ago was, this is just a plaster on our soul. It will do nothing to fight crime. And we want their main argument 2 years ago for rejecting this bail bill was, we want to see the data, the statistics, tell us the data that shows that this bill works. Because our research shows the bill doesn't work. Because look how many people get murdered, and look how many people get robbed, and look at the amount of home invasions. Where is the proof that this bill works? You all want to go and infringe on people's constitutional rights to apply for bail, to show us the data to say that if we support you all, that this bill is going to work. That was their sole argument. It had nothing to do with no amendments or anything else. That was all. But they come yesterday and she was the only person to speak. And if one was unsure as to how the other members of the UNC felt about having to vote yes for that bill yesterday after voting no last time, you need only to have looked at the faces of everybody as they voted, as they went down the line and they took the division. Especially Khadija Amin. Khadija looked sour. She looked vexed. She looked like she could have stretched across and snatched Kamala's wing. She was not pleased at all to vote yes. When you look at it, you could go back on the Parliament channel. I'm sure they're going to show it again. Or you could go on the YouTube, the Parliament channel's YouTube page, and you could see. Look at it, and just look when they're taking the vote and the faces of all of them. Not pleased. And so one needs to ask the question, is the reason why Mrs. Pasabi-Sessa and the UNC voted for the bail bill yesterday is because the dissidents decided that they were going to support with the government? Is it that Rai Radbeer's decision to support the government on the whistleblower protection bill week before, that it suddenly woke up the other dissidents? The others who decided to toe the line, and then they realized the amount of support that Radbeer was getting from the wider population in his decision to support good legislation. And so she was afraid probably that the government only needs 4 opposition members to vote for them, and you have 5 dissidents. Do I want to run the risk that we say no? We take a decision that we're voting no, and then the 4 or the 5 dissidents decide we will vote yes and give the government the majority that they need to pass the bill and show the population that the rest of you all are not about country. You are about party before country. Is it that the reason why she didn't want them to speak is because she was afraid that the dissidents would get up and speak their mind and defend the bill? Because if you're asking me to vote for it, then give me the opportunity to speak. And since she always like to say, we had a debate, the 5 of them sit down there and they say nothing and they make no contribution whatsoever. So is it that she was afraid that they would have made a contribution this time? And might have say something that Rai might have said, well, we didn't call it didn't caucus. Because he told us that the other day. Is that what she was afraid of? And that would have caused even more upheaval. Because 1 is bad enough, but if 4 or 5 of them give support, because she was the one who said the other day, she is not going to entertain another Ramjack G. You all remember what happened when Ramesh Maharaj, Trevor Sudama, and Sadiq Bash and so on, these guys under Pandey, which resulted in Pandey having to call an early election, and they fell out with him. And they started to vote with the PNM when they became backbenchers and started to vote with the PNM. And because the government no longer had the majority that it needed, because it was them. And at that time, if memory serves me correctly, there was the NAR held 1 seat in Tobago. And the NAR representative used to vote with the PNM along with the dissidents from Pandey's government and took away the majority that they had. And he had no choice but to call an election. Remember that? So is it a case that she said so, she was not going to, in light of Mr. Radbeer's voting with the government the other day, that she was not going to engage him on that level because she's not going to, if they have hopes of creating another Ramjack G, that she was not going to facilitate that. So is it that her hands were twisted and they had no choice? No. I would have loved to hear Munilal. And you see, and this is the thing, Prasad Bisesa yesterday robbed the population of an opportunity to really hear what the true position are. Because I would have loved to hear what Munilal had to say based on what he said last time. What is the about turn? What would he now come to say? Because she didn't really give any reasons other than to claim, okay, they suggested a couple of amendments. Other than that, she gave no other real reason as to what was responsible for the about turn. Because, let me remind you all. This is a Newsday article dated Thursday, the 7th of July, 2022, almost 2 years ago to the day. Opposition leader hails defeat of bail bill. Opposition leader Kamala Prasad Bisesa on Wednesday keenly welcomed the Senate's rejection of the bail amendment extension of duration bill 2022, which failed to earn a constitutional majority. The government's 18 senators voted in favor of the bill, while 6 opposition and 5 independent senators voted against. 1 independent senator abstained. The bill had proposed a 1-year extension for a 2019 bill with a 3-year sunset clause, which denies bail to a suspect in a serious crime who has a past conviction for a serious offense. Let me repeat that. The bill had proposed a 1-year extension, 1 year, for a 2019 bill with a 3-year sunset clause, which denies bail to a suspect in a serious crime who has a past conviction for a serious offense. Prasad Bisesa's news release on Wednesday was titled, Rowley's Government Collapses in the Senate, Draconian Bail Bill Defeated. She said, the Keith Rowley-led government was defeated in advocating a bill to deny people the right to apply for bail. Mrs. Prasad Bisesa, the bill that you all voted yesterday, I can't remember how many of them, I think there were at least 2 of them missing. Right? So at least 17 of you all that you voted for, without debate, you were the only person to speak. Is it that you're now telling the population that the bill that you all rejected 2 years ago because it was draconian in advocating to deny people the right to apply for bail, that is no longer draconian? What has changed in the last 2 years, Prasad Bisesa, that the bill is no longer draconian? Because it's still seeking to deny people the opportunity to apply for bail. And it's still treated with repeat offenders. Because when the Attorney General 2 years ago was begging and pleading, the only thing he didn't do was to go down on his knees and kiss Kamala's foot in asking the opposition to support. He made the point that this is designed to treat with or to target repeat offenders. Persons who have shown that they have no respect for law and order in the country, they have no regard for the citizenry, and will continue to commit crimes. These are the people we're trying to target. And them didn't want to hear, let's show me the data. We want the data. Data. Interestingly, the only person who talked about data yesterday was the Attorney General. I didn't hear no talk about data on the other side. Prasad Bisesa said the fact that the government was resoundingly defeated showed it had now collapsed. The government's claim that this legislation was a solution to the crime problem fell flat. I'm still quoting her. In light of evidence that there has been no reduction in crime and criminality after 3 years of having the bail bill of the statutes. She said the opposition had consistently asked the government for empirical evidence, data, that the law was actually working. Did they provide you with that data this time around, Mrs. Prasad Bisesa, to satisfy you? Because the law wasn't enforced for the last 2 years, so I don't know what data it is that you want. It wasn't enforced, it wasn't working. So there was no data that the government could show you. Well, look, you see in the last 2 years, look how much people get locked up on that, look how many crimes. It wasn't enforced. We go again. No such evidence was ever produced. Therefore, there was never any sufficient basis to interfere with the fundamental rights of citizens. But yesterday you voted, all of you all on the opposition bench voted to interfere with the fundamental rights of citizens. Is it a case of yesterday was yesterday and today is today? Embattled and disgraced Attorney General, I'm still quoting Prasad Bisesa here, Reginald Amo in his previous incarnation as president of the Law Association, she says, argued against the bail bill in 2016, which is the same bill that was presented in the Senate. She said the AG had earlier admitted that he had no real data to back his arguments in favor of the bill. The bail bill presented by the government did nothing to curb crime and instead breached multiple sections of the Constitution that guarantees and safeguards the fundamental rights of all citizens. So if this was the reason that you proffered years ago, Prasad says, 2 years ago, and you told the population, we're not supporting the bail bill because it breaches multiple sections of the Constitution that guarantees and safeguards the fundamental rights of all citizens. With the exception of 1 or 2 amendments, where they had to remove murder, because there was a section that speaks to the crimes for which persons would be denied bail. Murder was at the top of it. I think certain blood crimes, sexual assault, rape, and so on, something else. And the last one stated, and any other crime for which death is the penalty. And so while the government sought to remove murder on the basis of the Akini Charles case, they left that last part that said, and any other crime for which death is the penalty. And while she was in her contribution, she was telling the government, well, you need to treat with that part that says any other crime, because murder, the death penalty is the penalty for murder. And therefore, even though you remove murder from the top, you could still come back around now and include murder because it would fall under this part here that says any other crime for which death is the penalty, right? But I didn't really see her put anything else of consequence. But anyway, she says, meanwhile, crime continues to rise to unprecedented levels with triple and quadruple killings now occurring overnight. Prasad Bisesa said the real reason why crime continues was the government's alleged complete abandonment of responsibilities. She said the police service was crippled by rowdy sabotage and destruction of the Police Service Commission, while national security declined under Fitzgerald Hines as minister. The only solution to the nation's runaway crime wave is the complete removal of this failed Keith Rowley-led government. Prasad Bisesa recalled Rowley as opposition leader in 2012, saying that if the then government couldn't deal with crime, then itself was part of the problem. It is clear that this PNM government has become the problem. Right? That's Prasad Bisesa. 2 years ago, almost to the day, opposition leader hails the defeat of the bail bill. Same bail bill that she voted for yesterday. Same bail bill for which she denied the other members of her team to speak on. You could have given us Saddam Hussein, give us Rudal Munila. Let the two of them speak. Because the last time the bill came up, the two of them were quite vocal, had plenty to say in an attempt to defend the opposition's reasons for not supporting the bill. But yesterday, they supported it. So I want to ask Prasad Bisesa, all the people who over the last 2 years, who had committed serious offenses, and had the bill been in place, would not have gotten bail, who, however, got bail because the law wasn't in place. Because why? You all decided that you weren't going to support it. You all were able to convince the independent senators in the Senate not to support it because you said it was a draconian bill and it's infringing on people's constitutional rights and so on. For the last 2 years, all those repeat offenders who got bail, who were out on bail, committed crimes, appeared before the court, applied for bail, and got bail again, right? Which could have been avoided, and went out and committed further crimes. Like, for instance, the gentleman who was on bail for the Pennywise heist that resulted in the death of 2 people and serious injury being incurred by a third person, right? One of the officers who was killed, let's us not forget that his wife was pregnant, and based on what was reported, he wasn't even aware. So his child will never know him, never know the sound of his voice, never know what the father looks like, other than what he sees in pictures and so on. Okay? One of those guys, the fellas who was involved and was responsible for the death of that officer and the other one, remember, he was fingered. He was captured while he was killed by the police, as he was involved in, so he was out on bail, and he was involved in the murder, well, not the murder, sorry, the kidnapping of the young lady, the source double's daughter, whoever it is, right? But you see, Prasad Bisesa put herself between a rock and a hard place. She had no choice but to vote for that bill yesterday. She had no choice. Because I read for you all before, and I will read it again. Let me get this here. Just a couple months ago, back in March, let me read what she put out. She sent out a press release. Dated the 14th of March 2024. Opposition leader. The fact that a man already on bail for murder was granted bail for another serious crime, despite objections from the police and the prosecution, is serious cause for concern. Furthermore, this master of the court's lenient fine of $10,000 imposed on an individual found guilty of possessing marijuana, valued at $3.2 million, and a high-powered rifle, demonstrates a disturbing pattern of disregarding the severity of criminal offenses. I call upon the Judicial and Legal Services Commission, the Chief Justice, the Commissioner of Police, and the Director of Public Prosecutions to launch an immediate and independent investigation into this master of the court's judicial decisions. The recent actions of a master of the High Court have raised serious concerns about the accountability and effectiveness of our judicial system, particularly in the face of ongoing violent crime crisis, ongoing violent crime crisis plaguing Trinidad and Tobago. Her most recent decision, as reported in the Trinidad Newsday, to grant bail to an accused individual on a charge of possessing a stolen car, despite said individual being on bail for a capital offense of murder, is utterly unacceptable. The fact that a man already on bail for murder was granted bail for another serious crime, despite objections from the police and prosecution, is serious cause for concern. The decision undermines public safety and erodes trust in our judicial system's ability to hold criminals accountable for their actions. Furthermore, this master of the court's lenient fine of $10,000 imposed on individuals found guilty of possessing marijuana, valued at $3.2 million, and a high-powered rifle demonstrates a disturbing pattern of disregarding the severity of criminal offenses. Such actions send the wrong message to criminals and victims alike, fostering a sense of criminal impunity and fueling further lawlessness. The master's actions contribute to a pervasive lack of accountability within the judicial system and the absence of consequences for criminal behavior. I call upon, and she said all of right. Transparency and accountability are paramount to restoring faith in our justice system and ensuring criminals are held accountable for their actions. The time for action is now, and the judicial officers must be responsible for upholding the rule of law and protecting the safety and security of our citizens. End. Kamla Prasad Bisesa, SC, MP, missing an A, leader of the opposition, 14th of March, 2024. So she was most upset back in March when it is that somebody who was on bail for murder was able to get bail again, right? Having been found in possession of a stolen vehicle. And so incensed was she that she felt the need to pen a press release and send it out to members of the media for them to publish it so the whole of Trinidad and Tobago could know that she's upset that you have people out on bail for murder and committing crimes while they're out on bail for murder, coming back and getting bail again. But you see, if you had voted for the bail bill 2 years ago, that guy would not now be out on bail, Mrs. Prasad says. Right? If you had voted for it. They didn't. He would have, the judicial officer would have had, the discretion would have been taken out of her hands. Right? Because he would have satisfied the criteria to be denied bail in that instance. But you didn't support it because you want the data, and we want the data and the statistics to show that the law working. And because you and your cohorts decided not to support the legislation, whether in the lower or upper house, people like this guy was able to get bail, despite the fact that he was already out on bail for a serious offense of murder, Mrs. Prasad says. And we saw that there were many other instances of persons who were out on bail for murder, committing crimes, serious crimes while they were out on bail for murder, came before the court again, having been apprehended by the police, and were able to get bail again. Unfortunately, this law, the passage of this law is not retroactive. Now, it still has to go to the Senate. Perhaps if the Senate makes amendments and it is accepted, it will come back to the lower house for ratification and then for it to go to the president for assent and so on. But the law, as I said, is not retroactive. So they can't, after passing this law and the law is proclaimed, you can't go now and say, well, hey, you see all the people who get bail who won murder and they committed crimes and then they get bail and they now out on bail, pull them back. You can't do that because the law wasn't in effect at that time. So they basically got a get out of jail free card. I wonder if these individuals are living honest lives now, given that they're out on bail for not one but at least 2 crimes. I wonder if they've turned their lives around and given their lives to God. I wonder if it is that they're earning an honest living now. If they've given up, the company that they used to keep that led them into a life of crime, or perhaps they were leading some of these folks. I wonder if they've turned a new leaf and they're no longer involved in a life of crime. Because as I always say, they can't get a clean certificate of character to get a legitimate job. So how they earning a living? How they eating? How they buying the weed? Plenty of them, I'm certain, lighten up the chalice. How they paying for that? Yes, they're living honest lives. They realize, boy, I get bail twice. The Lord telling me something. I need to change my life. Yes. Let me start to go to church. Let me go and see if I could save up some money. See if anybody have any looking for any laborers in construction and see if I could save some money and buy a worker. And I could become a worker man and earn honest money. And all them guys and them who I used to line with on the block and the gangs or whoever I was involved in, I go and tell them, hey, I know about a life no more. Can't talk to all you. Scripture says, bad association spoils useful habits. Do not be deceived. I don't know that. I give up that life. That's what they're doing, that? Yeah. So all those people who should be behind bars still and who are outside today, free to be able to, continue the life that they were leading before. We have to say thanks to the leader of the opposition, who's suddenly seen the light. Suddenly seen the light. She and the rest of her team. But we ain't stupid. Right? I urge you all, go back on the Parliament channel. If you can look at it on channel 109, I think, which it is on cable, go on the Parliament channel on YouTube and look at the faces of the members of the opposition as they vote, especially Khadija Amin. If you wasn't sure, watch Khadija's face, right? Because they once again put the supporters in a very, what's the word I'm looking for? I read in some of the comments of the fully dons trying to defend the about turn, the 180-degree turn of their parliamentary representatives in supporting a bill that they were vehemently against 2 years ago, that they convinced their supporters was no damn good. And they were saying, yeah, but what that thing, and they only want to deny people bail, and that's all this government could do. But Jayanti Lakshmi told us when you deny bail, you create single-parent homes. Because the majority of the persons committing these crimes are men. And when it is you lock them up and you take away their right to apply for bail, then what do? How are the children going to eat? How are the children going to go to school? How the woman going to survive? You're creating single-parent homes. They don't have the guiding hand of that father. Yeah, that father who is a serial criminal. I wonder how Jayanti feels. I wonder if Jayanti is going to support this when it goes to the Senate. I wonder if she's going to debate, or will we see a repeat of what we saw yesterday, that only one person will speak on the opposition side to save Jayanti, to save her from committing political suicide. I bet you when you go on her Facebook page, normally she would repost things that Kamla Prasad-Bissessar posts. I bet she's going to repost that though, because what I just read for you all day, that press release that Kamla Prasad-Bissessar had sent out, Jayanti didn't repost that. But normally anything that Kamla posts on her Facebook page, go on Jayanti Lakshmi Ramdial's Facebook page and you will see she reposted. She didn't repost that because she stood up in the Senate to say that this government figured that denying people the rights to apply for bail is the solution to crime, and that's all they could do. They have no other solution, and Hines is a failure, and this. And then made the statement about denying people bail creates single-parent homes. The most asinine, dotish, stupid defense I have ever heard in advocacy for bail. Yes, you're an attorney. Yes, we know you belong to a law chambers that will represent the scum of the earth, because they don't care. Because the principal of that law chambers, he's more crooked than Miss Howard Cat. And you're only too happy to work under him. right? So the lowest of the low, you all will defend. And you all realize, hey, we could create a whole new constituency of clients in the prison. People who have been denied bail because the law denied them. But we will go to the court and petition the court to overturn laws that are over 100 years old that would have denied these criminals bail. So that we have now a whole group of people who sit down there and they could now apply for bail. And we could make our money, eat our food. And at the same time, worsen the crime situation in the country and blame it on the PNM and say they don't know how to treat with crime. When it is that you have the police telling you that one of the biggest challenges that they have in treating with crime is repeat offenders. Repeat offenders. That when these persons commit crimes and they get caught within days of being apprehended, and in their first appearance before the court for the crime for which they were just apprehended, they get bail. And they back outside. Within a matter of days, they back outside. And then the police now has to deal with new crimes, investigate and detect new crimes that these same persons are committing without let or hindrance, because they tell themselves, well, hey, if I could commit a crime and they catch me and I get in bail, then what the hell I nothing to be afraid of? If the main deterrent before was being apprehended and ended up in remand with the prison conditions being what it is, because I'm sure some of them would have heard from their colleagues who spent a little time on remand and tell them, but inside it's easy. But now they're not even seeing remand. They're seeing the inside of the police station. And that's as far as it goes. Right? Virtual case. Okay, you apply for bail, you get through. All right, hit the road. Until the next time. Yeah, officer. Until next time, I can't guarantee you how long, but I can't tell you 2 weeks. But yeah, just know. All right, so I show you a box up again. I'm going to commit some other crime. And yeah, mightn't be all here, might be another station or another division that hold me, but keep the faith. Don't worry. Right? Who facilitating that? Who facilitating that? So all of them sat down there yesterday and shame on their face. They know what to do, and the only thing Saddam could do is to try to contradict and talk about the law and the language, and we need the language to be was it term he used, boy? Can't remember. In terms of using court and high court and so on, and that's all. That's the only thing he could talk about. And Pasadbi says, so when the Attorney General got up to wind up, she asked some questions with respect to the legislation, and she said, and maybe the Attorney General in his winding up could respond, because I think they increased it from 120 days to 180, and she was asking what was the reasoning for increasing it to 180 days and so on. And when the Attorney General got up and he was in his winding up, decided to address some of our questions, this lady jumped up. The Prime Minister answered the question. The Attorney General doesn't need to, right? The Prime Minister already answered the question. The Prime Minister said he's the only one who will speak. If the AG is supposed to be winding up the debate, and the AG had to say, well, I am winding up the debate, but I'm just responding to. And the woman continued because she just wanted that bill to pass and for them to leave the parliament as quickly as possible, so that the camera wouldn't continue to span on their faces and see the chagrin on their face and the hurt that they were feeling, that they had no choice. Because she sat down there and wondered, So when they took the vote, when they reached to Michelle Benjamin now, every time now, whenever a vote is taken, Michelle Benjamin always looks when it reached down to Rai Ragbir to see how he went to vote. And so when he voted yes yesterday, and I think after him, they called on her. So she starts to laugh. And of course, I'm like, what's she laughing about? So because she was looking at him, probably to see if he would vote no or whatever it is. The ridiculous thing. And she was there, and yeah, so people understood why she was laughing. But they find themselves against a wall. So all of a sudden now they supported legislation. They have no issues. So was it last week that they supported the bill that would allow the state to compel officers, police officers and other members of the public service to take lie detector tests, polygraph tests, and so on. Now the UNC has been maintaining they will not support bad legislation. And they will not support legislation that could end up before the courts, right? That citizens would challenge it before the courts. But you all supported that polygraph testing legislation. All of you all voted for it along with the government. And now you have the Police Social Welfare Association is saying they intend to take the legislation to court. they intend to challenge it in the court and they are looking at their legal options. So they are saying that is not good law. But you also, you're not supporting any law that citizens would then be able to challenge in the court. So is it now that you all are afraid that the dissidents going forward? Because I'm sure by now, if it isn't abundantly clear, it should be Tarai Ragbir, Anita Haynes, well, Rodney Charles he gone, Dinesh Rambali, and who's the other one? Gosh, his name seems very moment. I think it's clear to all of them that their political careers are over, at least in the UNC anyway, and right, Rushton Parry. So it is clear. Once UNC starts screening that, yeah, they're not coming back. So they couldn't care. Rydon resigned himself to the fact that his tenure in the parliament has come to an end. And therefore, he's now doing what he should have been doing for the last 9 years, which is to support good legislation. All of a sudden, now it's good legislation. It wasn't good 2 years ago. Not much change. But you come 2 years later and you're supporting it. Let me read one more thing else here. Let me get this here. Shanti, where is it? Remind. It's good. Sometimes it's good to remind people. Let me get this here. Right. What is this? Guardian article dated the 6th of July, 2022. Almost 2 years to the day. UNC Senator, bail bill was doomed to fail. They're talking here about Jayanti Lakshmi. The Bail Amendment Bill 2019 had been doomed to fail, and if it was passed in Parliament on Wednesday, it would have been challenged in the courts and struck down, UNC Senator Jayanti Lakshmi said yesterday. Condemning the bill in an impassioned address in the Senate, Lakshmi said this plaster is meant to cover the gaping wound created by the government's failure to address every single aspect of the criminal justice system. For those reasons, we won't support this bill and extension of draconian measures. She predicted it's doomed to fail. If it is passed on the opposition's behalf, it will be challenged before the courts, and I am well placed to give that assurance. She's well placed to give that assurance. By who? Kamala. It will be challenged, and God so help me, I will be part of the challenge, and it will be struck down. Jayanti, do you plan to challenge what happened yesterday? Do you plan to vote no in the Senate, Jayanti? Because 2 years ago you made it pellucidly clear you were not in support of the bail bill, that it is bad legislation, as we just read here. The bill wasn't passed by the Senate due to a lack of special majority vote support. Lakshmi said the bill didn't target only repeat offenders, but also those with pending charges again before the courts. And the bill was an attempt by the legislature to interfere with granting of bail, saying it was unconscionable, unjustified, violation of the separation of powers, and unconstitutional. She said she couldn't understand, in light of judicial developments, how the government was seeking to pass a bill that was liable to be struck down. So it's not liable, what was passed yesterday is not liable to be struck down, Jayanti? So you and Anand will not, well, I don't know about, well, you might be able to, but Anand is not under the whip. He's not a member of parliament either in the lower upper house. So if somebody come to Anand and say, hey, I want to challenge the bail bill, Anand going to say, well, no, I can't do that because the UNC vote fair. There are no lawyers who will take that case, Jayanti, because you said, yes, you will be part, because you know the only person they will run to is Anand, and Anand will say, Jayanti, come now. Then we deal with it. Just like it did with the overturning of murder as a bailable offense, as a non-bailable offense. Lakshmi said, no, we're doing that. Government was trying to use the bill to camouflage its failure in dealing with crime, had failed on other sectors which contributed to crime, and should have sought alternatives rather than revamp something that hadn't worked over its 2019 to 2022 existence. Lakshmi asked other senators not to support the bill since nothing was accomplished then. She cited police statistics for increased murders, woundings, and shootings, though rape and sexual offenses went down a bit. Lakshmi queried the justification of denying bail for 3 months. You queried the justification of denying bail for 3 months, okay. But, no. Well, 4 months, but anyway, just now. This thing playing with my head. Right. Lashmidial queried the justification of denying bail for 3 months when crime was rising and detection rates falling, and when an accused would remain in the hellhole of the remand yard. She said those conditions had to be considered, meaning the conditions in the remand prison, right? Slamming the 120-day stipulation, she said she had visited a cell on remand yard for half an hour, and that was the longest half hour of my life. Saying the bill showed no respect for rule of law, judiciary, and people's rights. Lakshmidial felt the attempt to remove the judicial discretion to grant bail made a mockery of the presumption of innocence until proven guilty. I want to ask Jayanti, has your position changed? Because there hasn't been what was passed yesterday and much different from what was proposed 2 years ago. The same bill that you were just so vehemently against. Because if they vote for it in the lower house, then you all have to support it. The 6 early in the upper house have to support it. But I wouldn't be surprised if Jayanti isn't in the parliament, in the Senate, when it goes to the Senate. All of a sudden that day, she ain't put on yet, saying local palace, she ain't put on yet. If she ain't make the child yet, probably that day she might start to have labor pains. Or she ain't feeling too good that day. I can't make it now. Well, I had to send somebody else on my behalf for that day. Yeah, put Tim Gopi Singh now. Or someone, or put Neil go sign to hold on for me now. Yeah. Because she doesn't want to be a hypocrite. Look how your own party has put you in a precarious position. 2 years ago, all earlier, you, Saddam, Kamla, all of you all were against the bill. It serves no useful purpose. It cannot help the crime situation. And you voted for it yesterday. Tell us what has changed. What has changed? So, some of your fully done supporters now, shame on their face, egg on their face, after they defended you all 2 years ago. And you all come back yesterday to pass the bill. Here then. Well, it's a new bill. It's not the same bill. Really? It's not? It's a new bill? Okay. Show us how. Asking them, well, please tell us how it's a different bill. And when they can't answer, Rowley is a rapist. Rowley is a pedophile. Where the $3.3 billion gone? The Auditor General say 2.6 billion missing. How we move from the bail amendment bill to only talking about the Auditor General? That is a significant shift of the goalpost there, but you know why? Because they have no response. The party has once again left them in the lurch. No explanations. I would love to hear how Professor Misinformation and Captain Clueless would speak to that issue. They're not going to talk about it. No? They ain't talking about that. And I'm not inclined to listen to the ground report. I wonder, I ain't seeing Jerome Moses here. Or a new one who goes by the name of James. I'm not seeing him either. Where are you all this morning to defend? Tell us, how is it a different bill? Please, how is it different? It was a new bill. Really? Oh, what a tangled web we weave. Poor souls. Poor souls. Well, they have no answer, so all we're going on here now is about... Let me give you an example. Trying to deflect. Here the latest deflection. One of them put out yesterday. In a group I tell you all called Trinidadian and Tobago Politics 24/7. Open microphone. They pull up, these people are so pathetic. They pull up some old advertisement entitled Negroes for Sale by public auction on Thursday 10 a.m., the 12th of April, 1848. Prime and healthy at O'Donnell's Auction House, number 2 Cumberland Street, Charleston, South Carolina. 25 field hands, trained at hoeing, chopping, thrashing, bale and plow, baling, plowing, peaceful lot. No troublemakers, strong and can work in the heat all day long. 20 boys being taught to drive wagons and fetch, quick learners. 18 women, 8 with future insurance, all house trained, clean cooking, ironing, making beds. 6 girls, comely, quiet, burden out, not headstrong, manageable. 1 female, superior cook and excellent seamstress also for sale at 1 o'clock. plow horses, cows, hogs, and 1 prime bull, 5 head of goats, and 2 wagons. Yeah. They went and dig up to pull up that. Claiming about Negroes for sale in Trinidad. And that the PNM and the 1%. Yeah. Looking to buy Negroes. Unfortunately, this is the extent to which they have gone. When it is that they cannot debate the issues, the current issues, this is their default. To pull the race card and post up offensive things like this. And as I told you all, they are no longer hiding in the shadows of private groups on Facebook, where they feel free to talk their nastiness amongst each other because everybody in those groups, more or less, the majority of them, support those views and have the similar mindset. But now they're coming out boldly. They don't care who see. They're not even hiding their profile pictures anymore. They don't care. They're not even locking their profiles, because when you see these things come up and you click on it and they go into their profiles and you see, it's like, so what? So what? They don't care. Just posting these nasty things, among others. And this is just a sample, a taste of somebody ridiculous. Anyway, yeah. And we must support that party. But they quick to ball PNM like to vote on race and whatnot. No. It is things like that which remind us, which throw our minds back to the year 1995, when it is that Pandey became Prime Minister and they felt emboldened, supporters of that party, to be writing on walls all over the country, "It's Indian time now." Things like that. Offensive things like that. And just as we see happening in Tobago, where we have the level of animosity that we see coming out of Tobago from citizens, residents of the island, towards Trinidadians, has never been more acute than it is now. Right? And the PNM was there, saying everybody living in love, we happy, Chinese going across to Tobago, good thing, spend your money, buy your sugar cake, your benabol, your red mango and thing, and you come back, no hate, no nothing. But now, that party, that leading there, TPP, just go on social media every day. This page called the Tobago People's Party Connect or something so. Only a set of hateful posts they putting out. Right? Every single day, every time they wake up in the morning, they say their prayers, drink a cup of tea or coffee. They open their phone, then we start to attack the PNM. And attack Trinidad. And how Trinidad doing this and Trinidad want to do that and all kind of thing, and Trinidad should mind their business. As they start. Now, on this side of the pond, as soon as they get up, some of them 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, posting some of the most racist of posts. Racist, they don't care. And when you engage them, they double down and triple down with their nastiness. Because they cannot debate the issues. Because their party continues to leave them in the lurch. Telling you that wasn't good legislation 2 years ago. And we're not supporting it. And as a result of that decision, a number of persons who should not be out on bail are today out on bail. Right? Number of persons out on bail. But the law hasn't been passed yet. It was passed in the lower house, but it still has to go to the Senate and it has to be assented to and proclaimed. And until such time as that happens, attorneys are free to continue to approach the court to get bail for persons who probably already out on bail and who might commit a crime today and get caught, who might commit a crime tomorrow and get caught and will come before the court and ask for bail, and the attorneys will be able to get bail for them. What this law does, it takes that discretion away from the judicial officers. So the law says, if you are a repeat offender and you're already out on bail for a serious crime, unless you can provide exceptional circumstances as to why the judicial officer should grant you bail, no bail must be granted. Right? Keep your backside inside. And one more thing before I open the line. As I said, I read for you all just now, where Jayanti Lakshmidiyal spoke to one of the reasons for them being against the bail bill was the conditions on the remand prison. Let me just see if I get this here. Just to remind. Yeah. Where is it? Right. Lakshmidiyal queried the justification of denying bail for 3 months when crime was rising and detection rates falling, and when an accused would remain in the hellhole of the remand yard. She said those conditions had to be considered. Slamming the 120-day stipulation, she said she visited a cell on remand yard for half an hour, and that was the longest half hour of her life. So it's increased from 120 to 180 days, if memory serves me correctly, because I did hear the leader of the opposition make mention of that. But you see, you all must not forget the same conditions that she was speaking about. The principal in her law chambers, where she works, when he was Attorney General, told us jail and make a ripe fig. And he was referencing the same conditions that Jayanti told us in 2022 was so horrible, so terrible, to subject people to have to stay in there without bail. But it's the same conditions, Jayanti, that existed when Anand, your boss, was Attorney General, and he had the power to fix it. Same. And he didn't fix it. He said, jail and make the right fig. You ain't going inside on a holiday. Just to give you all to remind you all. In 2013, the People's Partnership Government, of which Anand Ramlogan was the Attorney General, commissioned or put together a committee to inquire into prison conditions, in particular, remand. And a report was generated. Let me just give you all just a little bit of insight into what that report said. Let me see if I get this here. The dismal conditions experienced by these remand yard persons and the prison officers themselves have been very clear to us. The grossly inadequate water and toilet facilities, no roof lights, poor ventilation, sweltering heat, cramped conditions, and insufficient sleeping facilities all combine to create a climate of injustice and potential threats to safety. The days of toilet buckets for use by persons in a cell should be over. The committee found it shocking and saddening to witness 13 homeless persons placed in a cell with no beds, just the concrete floor. The committee heard that these persons are mentally ill. Certainly, the prison system is not suitable for the mentally ill. The day-by-day uncertainty and not knowing when or what will happen to them, especially when many of them are on remand for as much as 10 years, would likely contribute to a pathological state of mind, a definite resentment of society itself, resentment of prison authorities, and a criminogenic disposition. And these extensive trial delays for such persons have reached crisis points and demand quick and urgent remedy. Recommendations. Government, as a matter of immediate and urgent necessity, should move more expeditiously to build a new remand facility. Remove the remand prison to more suitable accommodations that is neither unduly crowded and unsanitary, nor likely to cause injury or undue suffering to inmates. It is important to bear in mind that inmates on remand are not serving terms of imprisonment. This means that one central and several other remand facilities may have to be built or acquired, since the existing circumstances create extreme volatility and are dangerous to both inmates and prison officers. The new accommodation as replacement for the current remand prison should be completed within 18 months from January of 2014. In addition, immediate action must be taken to provide state-issued, readily identifiable clothing to prisoners on remand. This was a committee that was commissioned by the cabinet of Trinidad and Tobago. Let me see here, just 2013, I think it was. Yes, 2013. Special Prisons Committee proposals for urgently needed action, 2013. They did nothing. What would have motivated the then cabinet to inquire into prison conditions, to put together this committee, right? So you pay people to serve on this committee, to go and to look into the conditions of the remand yard, the commissions in the various prisons, wherever, and to see what prisoners and prison officers have to endure on a daily basis. And this report recommended urgent action to be taken and itemized the things that should have been done, right? So your taxpayers' money was spent for this report. Cabinet got it. What did they do with it? 3 years later, you had Israel Khan calling for the report to be laid in Parliament. So the report was completed, and his son was at the time the Inspector of Prisons. And I suppose he would have probably told his father about the condition and whatnot to inquire. talked to him about it. And Israel Khan, who was at the time Kamala Persad-Bissessa's attorney, was on public record demanding, calling for this report to be laid in the parliament, for something to be done about it, about the prison conditions. What did they do? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. So they spend your taxpayers' money, commission put this committee, report came, and just like the results of the investigation into the Piaco airport, the 2-month investigation under Bob Lindquist, it ended up on a shelf collecting dust. Nothing was actioned. Nothing was done to fix prison conditions. And the man under whom Jayanti Lakshmidhyal works today, the man who made these statements, jail and make to ride fig. So he couldn't care less about those prison conditions when he was AG and had the power, the wherewithal, access to the treasury to be able to at least put in place some of the recommendations made by the committee. Did nothing, right? But here we are, years later, he is suing the state on behalf of 9 men who were accused of the Vindra Naipal Kuhlman murder. He is suing the state, right? Claiming that these very same prison conditions that was brought to his attention and the attention of his cabinet in 2013 at cost to taxpayers. So he was fully aware. These men were sitting in jail when he was Attorney General. The case started when he was Attorney General, right? He had no issue with the prison conditions then that they were under. Because as far as he's concerned, they were guilty and they should spend the rest of their natural lives enduring those same conditions. But he's out of office today. And he's representing the same 9 men to tell you the prison conditions to which they were subject while he was Attorney General, while Kamala Persad-Bissessa was Prime Minister, while they had in their hand a document that told them about these conditions and made recommendations on how to fix it. He didn't do it. If he had done it then to save taxpayers' money, it's better he had spent the money to fix the prison. But instead, today, you want taxpayers to pay these men for the mental anguish and suffering that they would have endured as a result of these same prison conditions. So instead of spending the money to fix the prisons so that no other prisoner will have to endure what it is I just read there, you rather the money be paid out. You want each one of them to get $3.5 million by saying, those filthy conditions that they had to suffer while he was Attorney General, that warrants them getting $3.5 million because it affected their mentals. But put them back. Yeah, put them back. So to read Jayanti Lakshmidhyal talking nonsense and trying to cite one of the reasons for not supporting the bail amendment bill is the prison conditions and the conditions on remand. Ask Anand why he didn't fix it when he was Attorney General. Ask Kamala, your political leader, the person who has you sitting in the Senate. Ask her why they didn't take action on this report. Why didn't they implement any of the recommendations in this report to fix the conditions on remand? This administration has taken measures to improve the conditions on remand, right? So I was reading when doing my research, Fitzgerald Hines would have spoken to the issue about some of the things that they've done. They no longer have in remand certain areas. They don't have the slot bucket anymore. Some of these prisoner cells are air conditioned and the like, and things that they have done to upgrade the prisons, one wing, and now they're working on the other wing and so on, to bring these prison conditions up to humane standards. But Kamala didn't care when she was Prime Minister for the 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days. What did they do? The slot bucket, the stop pail, whatever you call it, that was the order of the day for the whole time she was Prime Minister and for the whole time that Anand was Attorney General. And they had a report that they commissioned, spend taxpayers' money for, and did absolutely nothing. But Jayanti want to come to tell you, because of those conditions, she not supporting it and the opposition doesn't support, but did nothing to ameliorate those conditions. And again, another thing that this administration had to inherit and fix, find money to fix. But they want to know where the money gone, and only spend so much money and only ain't doing nothing for crime, to treat with the crime situation. Yeah, yesterday was yesterday, as Jacques said. Today is today, right? Bunch of jokers. Let me just get this thing here, right? You know, and I was supposed to end at 8. Let me just play this quickly.
Madam Speaker, we recognize that the Administration of Justice, a JIPA Act, took effect on the 12th of December, 2023. A JIPA, as I've said already, preliminary inquiries, replace it with a sufficiency hearing presided over by a Master of the High Court. the power to grant bail for indictable offences was transferred from magistrates to masters. Under a JIPA, persons charged with indictable offences, including the offence of murder, will first appear before a master who will consider the issue of bail. These are the provisions brought before this House today by the vehicle of this bill. There is a real concern, Madam Speaker, under the current regime of the likelihood that repeat offenders will continue to commit offences after they obtain bail. The work of the Commission has interrogated and taken into consideration the high levels of crime in Trinidad and Tobago, particularly the commission of serious offences, including murder, gang, and firearm-related offences within the past 5 years. Madam Speaker, these are the statistics. For the period 2019 to 2024, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service has identified 772 persons as being repeat offenders. Data provided by the Commissioner of Prisons shows that out of a total of 2,261 convicted male offenders in 2019, there were 1,110 repeat offenders, which represented 49% of the total of male convictions. During the following 2 years, there was an average decrease of male convicted repeat offenders by 10%, but this was because this was in the heart of the COVID-19 pandemic when we were all locked in. Towards the end of the pandemic, however, in 2022, there was an increase of approximately 5%, that is 451 repeat offenders out of 1,366. In 2023, Madam Speaker, the percentage of reoffenders surged to 52%. That is 1,076 repeat offenders out of 2,070 convictions. During the period 2022 to 2023, there was a 139% increase of convicted male reoffenders. Madam Speaker, the data also reflects a steady increase in the number of male convictions for firearm and dangerous drug offenses following the COVID-19 pandemic. This government is of the view, Madam Speaker, that it is necessary for this Parliament, to introduce conditions to guide the exercise of the court's discretion in the grant of bail to persons charged with serious offences by requiring such persons to show sufficient cause or that exceptional circumstances exist to justify the court granting bail to them. And these measures are particularly critical in addressing recidivism. Madam Speaker, I turn to an overview of the bill before this Parliament.
I was here, they wanted statistics and they wanted data. Take data in all your platform. Take data about the number of repeat offenders, right? Between the last time this bill came before the House and now. Number of repeat offenders. Persons who were able to get bail despite the fact that they were already on bail. Because what? The law didn't exist. The law lapsed. The sunset clause was allowed to lapse because according to J&T, prison conditions on remand, according to J&T, she would challenge, if it is a pass, she would challenge it in court to have it struck down. And Kamala praised when it failed in the Senate. And Saddam and the rest of them, remember? Unilal and it reading like a binary card and all of that foolishness. The Attorney General just tell you how many repeat offenders it had, persons who should not have gotten bail. But because there was no law in place to deny them the bail, they get it. Thanks to who? Not Keith Rowley, not Reginald Amo, not Faris Al-Rawi. No. Not thanks to them at all. Wonder what Paul Richards and them have to say. Wonder what you all have to say with respect to those statistics. Let me see how I'll ever vote this time. The alternative to the PNM is chaos. They don't like to hear that. 7701763. Change this here. Take this off. Right. Jenny.
Morning, Dominic.
Morning.
Want all those who looked on to access the bad things. First, I want to just, thank God that Hurricane Beryl has passed Tobago without any minor or, in fact, major damage, and also Trinidad and Tobago. And our support and love, I'm sure, from Facts of Stubborn Things and the Vitoli thing goes out to the people of Grenada and Carriacou.
Yes, yes.
Who Carriacou seem to have experienced a lot of damage.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've been getting reports from a journalist there, so I was getting live report. I'm yet to contact him this morning to see what's happening, but I did get the videos, and it looks really bad. I'm not sure what is happening in Barbados, but again, our heart and our love. I'm taking the liberty of saying from Facts of Stubborn Things, debunking facts with lies, and let me talk the thing.
Right.
We send all our support and love to the people of Carriacou, Grenada, and all the surrounding islands. Having said that, Dominic, Negroes for Sale is a part of our history. We can't deny that. Chattel slavery was a very cruel, inhumane, and savage system that was carried out against persons of African descent from the continent being brought here unwillingly, and we know what would have happened. So Negroes for Sale is a part of our history, and it's something that is dear. So anybody using that to try to slight and embarrass us, I think is kind of foolish, because it did happen. However, on the other hand, indentureship also did happen. And there is a history also attached to indentureship and why Indians came to Trinidad in the first place. So the history of indentureship didn't just start in 1845. The persons who came had a history in India, and you know what that history is? They were Dalits, they were untouchables, they were not considered a part of the four Varnas in India. And that had nothing to do with us. It had to do with a system that was advantaged and used by the English, who were the most cruel of the colonial masters in India. And as a Dalit, they weren't allowed to become priests or teachers or anything. They were uneducated, highly illiterate, and they did the work that the Brahmins and the other castes wouldn't do. And that is, which is taboo in Hinduism, taking up filth off the street. Because you know in India, the history of open defecation, they are trying to get out of that, of course. So they were taking up filth off the street. They were cleaning cesspits with hands. And they were doing the jobs that nobody else in India wanted to do. They were digging garbage to get food. Because, of course, if you're not educated, you're not working, you're not a part of the system, it will be difficult to get work. And if you can't work, you can't feed yourself. So you're left to scramble about in garbage, dustbin, dump sites, and all that. That is the history of the Dalits who came to Trinidad. And when they came to Trinidad, they also had a history. They were the most violent in the society at that time. They were wife killers. They killed women out of jealous rage, and their weapon of choice was the cutlass. They were hung fit. They were charged fit. They were imprisoned fit. They also carried out violence against each other. It was really bad. So that is also a history. There's also a history of drugs, cocaine, and other things. And we have the old shadies of those time, and the liars, and the fruit king, and all that. So they too have a history. So when we talk about it, I don't expect that they to get upset, because that is also their history. But you see, when you tell them that, you become racial. But when they tell me what we own, they say it in fact. So I'm saying to those who continue to speak about as Negroes for Sale and all those disparaging things, that is a part of our history. And we have to know and accept that, but we have moved on since then. But have those who came here in 1845, some of their ancestors today, have they fully accepted and embraced their history? That was just as bad. In fact, let me not say just as bad. It was bad. And it cannot be compared to what we went through during enslavement. So I'll rest that there. Kamla Prasad is no hero this morning. Kamla Prasad made a political decision because her political stocks are down, that she had no choice but to support a bill that she herself would have fought against supporting before. So this was not no hero move there. That is why I suspect, in my opinion, she alone talk, because she may have been really, as you say, afraid for the others to talk. So this is just a movement to increase her stock. And I want to tell Kamala Prasad-Bissessar that did not work, because what you did between 2010 and 15 cannot be raised. And an opposition until 2024 will not also be erased. We had an SOE under you, Kamala Prasad-Bissessar, where you would have locked up, because you are part of it, over 8,000 Black youths from the East-West corridor. That is a fact, Kamala Prasad-Bissessar. We also had under you, one of the peoples who were joined with you for the PP government said that you all thief money from the treasury as if you have a right to thief it. Yeah, that was said by Makandal Daga. We have Jack Warner, who was a part of you, Kamala, saying that the legacy that the PP and the UNC will leave in this country is being the most corrupt government in the history of Trinidad and Tobago. Kamala, that is under you. We have OAS under you, Kamala. So you can't come now to play you as a savior. You're not a hero, you're a zero. We will not forget that you never supported no bill in the parliament at all, nothing this government come up with. So you coming out to stand up and speak is a waste of time. And to those who trying to spin it and flip it, we will remember Kamala Prasad-Bissessar in 2025. That he was not a hero, he is a zero. And you only did what you do because you didn't have a choice. Inside you're buried and hot in you to have to do it. But you did it. And we're not saying that, oh my God, and she has supported the bill, and let me see what the government going to do now, the ball in their court. It's the ball in their court, because that was not the police. The police, the ball in them court now, to use whatever law and treat it the right way to deal with crime. They have nothing to do with the government. The government would go and pass legislation, good legislation, as Dr. Wigney, Raj, or Repeal has said, and then it has to be implemented. And it has persons to implement those things. So Kamala, today I'm saying, what you tried to do yesterday has failed. And finally, I want to tell Leroy Baptiste something. Leroy Baptiste would have made good on his promise. And he did go to meet with the opposition. I think it was yesterday. A whole team from PSA people nobody voted for, to have talks of mutual interest. I want to tell him something quickly. The PSA has a constitution, just like Trinidad and Tobago has a constitution, or let's run and talk about things unconstitutional. Well, in our constitution, the Conference of Delegates is the highest body, supreme body of the union. The General Council is the financial body, the second highest body, and then there's the executive. The executive take directions and directives from the Conference and General Council, who are made up of ordinary members who are voted in and sent by their different sections. You did not get, Leroy Baptiste, a mandate or no authority from those two bodies to go and meet with the opposition party. In fact, there's nothing in our constitution saying that you have to meet with any government. Your meeting has to do with the CPO. That is where you meet it. So you go in there today, you will have just dragged PSA down further into the rabbit's hole. Because I want to tell you this on a lower level. I'm an ordinary member. So me going to PNM Sports Day and taking out pictures is not the same as somebody who is the president of PSA going to some function with government ministers and taking pictures. It is not the same. So all those who want to bring it to the same, they don't understand our constitution. Look, and again, I'm saying, Leroy Baptiste, what you would have done there is put a nail halfway in the coffin of the PSA, because there are members in that union, in our union, who are not UNC, who are not PNM, who support PNM, who support UNC. There are persons who vote, who don't vote. There are Hindus, Muslim, Rastafarian, Catholic, and I could go on and on. So when you specifically align yourself with one entity over another one, what you are bringing to the members of the PSA, not confusion and mayhem. And PNM persons who are members of PSA can very well say, you do not represent our interests again, because you have moved the PSA from being apolitical, and you're pulling it into the direct politics just like you, and they could decide they would hold in the $100. I see no good coming from this. But again, PSA members sit back comfortable, but they know how to cuss me, they know how to insult me, But the real people that have a problem with it does nothing. So I sit back and watch and wait and see what the conference going to do and what the general council going to do. And that will give me a directive where PSA is going to go in the future. Nobody voted for the Rebel and that team who went and meet with the opposition leader yesterday and was so proud to take out pictures. So I'm going to thank you for the opportunity as usual, and do have a blessed day. And everyone tune in, have a blessed day.
Thank you, Jen. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Dom.
Morning.
Good darling.
Hi, morning.
The hypocrisy of the guns. Ram Logan sat for how many years and did nothing? He should be sued because there was something in Parliament against inhumane prison conditions. He did nothing. Ram Logan, tell us why. What game we play is not about nation, but about a fat bank account. And they will be judged by heaven and earth for what they have done. Karma, it is time to ride into the sunset. What happened? Look, the elections a couple of weeks ago, that have a statistic. She wanted to be the up and coming. Some of you have lost grace in the sight of your people, of your party and supporters. This was your back to the wall, so you had to get away out to be seen. We see you for what you are, a coward, a dictator, and a cult leader. Can we cry shame, shame, shame on you? On this issue about us being slaves, it's a fact. We can't change it, but what we can change is keeping you out of office. My foreparents were slaves, not by choice. They were raped, sodomized, and killed. And that is what you choose to do. Become slaves again. The same people calling slaves and nobody. The same people want to vote for you, really, Kamala? And the people? People hear me well. And listen about slavery. God has freed from slavery. Don't be enslaved by your past. Use your past as a stepping stone and build yourself. Each spot is fail and become and learn to move on. You build yourself up. Make a difference in your life, in your children to come, and their children to come. Don't be fooled by David Nackett or Robert Julian John. They are token Indians. Because how they know the word, they wouldn't do what they're doing. Make a difference in your life. And don't be lost like look back. Look forward. Get a future. Know your worth. See potential. And when you're weak, ask for help. And I don't know anybody to follow you and see. As an African person, how can you sell yourself? Kamala is a new slave master, a different kind. Dom, have a good day, bye-bye.
You too, thank you much. 7701763. Right. Dion says convenient amnesia is the order of the daily UNC. So true, Dion. Hello. Good morning.
How are you this morning?
I am good, man.
Thank God that you were at least home yesterday.
Yes.
So, like, of all the time period that she had since last year before, why not she supported that bill? Is there something that we don't know?
Well, only she can answer that.
Is it because what transpired last week Friday with a particular MP who decided to vote for country instead of party? But wait a minute, she wasn't there yesterday. No. I mean, she wasn't there last week.
No.
Oh, I see. So I don't know. Is it because she was in political stuff that she couldn't share? That she had no choice? Well, I find it too late now. Because all those so-called census killings that took place over the last, 2 months last year, thanks to somehow, particularly one was it this lady talking about they would have the child with the father that
Jayanti.
Yeah, Jayanti. Yeah. We had these census killings and people coming out and these people coming out and things like nothing at all, like I think it was intention. Too little, too late. Right?
Yes.
Or is it because of what transpired last week in Pinalbo with a particular beauty queen who died? I don't know. Too close to home? You know what I'm talking about, right? Right up.
Yeah.
Yeah, up to now, that thing is unmoved, and I think that the people will try to bury that story. Nothing will come out of it. Just like the girl who get kidnapped from the people who making doubles now.
Yes.
The story be buried, but they were studying now on the Pahu now. And as I said, they are still talking about that now. They want to focus on particular part of the report.
Yeah.
And as they are talk about that, I hope you don't touch on that because they will make mischief with that story as well, you know. Just like what they did with Paria. They will make certain parts. Right? I don't know. I have things to say about what I said yesterday with the press conference with Mr. Paria. But let's leave it at that time because apparently he realized he's not the Prime Minister of Tobago.
Yeah.
Yeah, he still needs to help from Kerala, but yeah, like it or not. You have a good day,
You too, sir.
Country.
Hello, good morning.
In your observation and the keenness is on point again. I mean, you can't dispute it. And one of the reasons why you go at actual events, things that happen, and you put the picture together, the puzzle together, and you make sense. And that is where it's always beat the UNC supporters on, because they always make up stupid assessments of everything. And when they can't fight, whether they talk about one of them talk about the Auditor General, and he missing 3.3 billion. Missed it. Now that was catch me, you know. It's missing 3.3 billion missing, and that is from point. But nobody really don't take them on with that because it doesn't make any sense. If $3.3 billion are being missed, and okay, they say they're pointing to input that money. So I try to put, because this is, and I just trying a comparison with your facts and their facts. So Ember, together with members of the Ministry of Finance and members of the border the Treasury. So you have the permanent secretary, and you have the accountants and the assistant accountants and the finance person, and this one. There's a whole load of them. And then you have the supervisors and them, because they prepare accounts. Now, what the Auditor General is saying is that they came with the report too late. But what we're hearing coming out of the Ministry of Finance is that before they actually stipulated deadline passed, they were telling us that there money that was not put into the account, and they need to put it in. So she would have had enough time as an Auditor General to peruse it and then decide, which she failed to do. Now, I just going based on what has been said on both sides. The Auditor General through people and herself, and what the Ministry of Finance, the Treasury Department, and the Minister is saying. So tell me, within the 3.3 billion, all that money was missing. If they are telling her there's 3.3 billion, are you just going with them saying no, 3.3 billion? I know it's not 3.3 billion. When they do up the account and they check out everything and they build the receipts and the thing, it is if it is missing. Why are you going and tell the other general, look at 3.3 billion, but it's missing? So missing 3.3 billion is going for the Auditor General. All right? That is the point. So that is making no kind of sense to me. Because if Imbud wants to steal the 3.3 billion, as they say, why not do it like how Anna Ramlogan and them do it? Anna Ramlogan and AMBD organize a cartel within the Minister of Finance and a cartel within the Treasury Department and siphon all the money. Like do like the former Attorney General, hire the partner lawyers, pay them a senior counsel fee, go behind, what's his name again? The one they want to kill for the gas to liquid plant. Deceased thing. God bless his soul.
Malcolm Jones.
Go behind him, create a situation. Even though that the witness statement, one that up to now, Munilal can't come forward yet, his witness statement. Because when they decide to sue, and Anand Ramlogan and them decide to sue Malcolm Jones. All right, and they serve him with his reaction protocol letter together with his lawyers and thing when he case that and thing, and Malcolm Jones put forward his witness statement. I was told that they receive it because Ramdeen said that they had that, and the King's Counsel, well, at the time Queen's Counsel said that if he had seen the witness statement, he would have advised the state to drop the case. But what he is saying is that he never seen the witness statement prepared and everything by the local lawyers who would have went to the court after when the date for the hearing. When everybody have to submit their side of the thing to start the case, that was being hidden. In other words, it's something that was happening now, where Munilal has to submit his witness statement. Because the judge is saying that there is sufficient evidence that he needs to come to the court and answer. So he has to put in his witness statement. Up to now, Munilal can't put in his witness statement. So I just drawing these conclusions for people to understand that when the UNC put forward their facts is make-up facts, that's their own. But they can't hide actual events, things that happened. We call that history. And when you read on what happened in the history, you will always be online with facts. Because here it is, you were able to go back and think what Kamala Prasad and them said and what she's saying now. And we're making sense of it because what she have been saying then, together with the whole gang of them, and what they did yesterday, and what she said on behalf of all of them, doesn't really make any sense. So why then just vote for the damn bill in the first place and done with that? Why I just show all that set of worries and problems and things? You give a good explanation. I welcome that. I could also add to your conversation this morning is that she's pushing hard fight to be prime minister, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now elections is next year, and then she is on the thing that probably me call a snap election. But let's just say, and let me start by saying first, God forbid that Kamala Prasad sister becomes prime minister. Will she now be in the hot seat? Mm-hmm. And then you have these fellas and them, and we see the statistics and the crime and the weapons and the murders and all these things. Now, how is she going to deal with it?
Right.
And how is she going to deal with that? No, she has the experience of dealing with it because it was passed under her and she used it. So she understands how it works. And me, Layman, I am not no Queen's Counsel, no thing like that, or whatever it is. I'm not an expert in crime. But I can tell you as simple as that. I mean, police can hold a man for murder because he killed an next man with a gun. or he attempted to murder or something like that, or the police on duty going down the road, suspicion, saw a guy acting suspicious, when they apprehend him, they find a firearm on him, right? But he go into the court and get bail, the same time come back out. And then what? Pay $10,000, find the case done. Because he plead guilty for having it. Or if it's a murder, he go inside the thing, he get a lawyer, put through the case and everything, bam, 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 he come out next day. Now he know how to pay that lawyer. Because the lawyer already get a piece of that money. So what do you think he's gonna do? He's gonna do what he know best. Take back up our next gun and go and rob people. And this time he ensuring that nobody gonna point no finger at me because I have a case inside already. So what I'm gonna do? What the famous lawyer who tell us what dead man tell no tales?
Yes.
So it's a recycling thing. It has a mental strain on the right thinking citizens and the criminals doing what they had to do to survive. Because listen, most of them criminals, Dominic, I will tell you, them don't even care if Good Friday fall on Ash Wednesday, Them know they make up their mind. Listen, I could dead any minute now because if the police didn't kill me, the next gang will kill me. But the drugs that will be taken to hype up myself, it go kill me. So me go think. So I just want to live good and things to have money in my pocket, things buy my gold plate from my neck, buy my Henny, buy my this, buy my Nike, my latest Nike. And have a time, that's all they're just living for that. And when that time reach and they die, well, the next fella down the line can take over his spot. And in some instances, to their own partner in the gang, want to sit on the throne, so they set him up and get killed. To sit on the throne. So that is the culture of these fellas and now we have to live within that because this is what them fellas never do. Because people like Janty and them say that them fellas and them have the family and when they're dead, they will be the parents and them of those children of these gangs and them. It will happen anyhow because that is how they're living. Them living for tomorrow. Them living for the future. Them not putting all aside nothing. They're not building a foundation. All them doing is just bringing down everybody. So by Kamala Persati's sister voting for that and I can add that day because both of them could get into that she knows that if she becomes prime minister, she needs something to help because she knows she will get blows with the murder. And she knows she sat on the seat and she couldn't handle the murders because she would have put about 5 minutes of national security personnel in the seat. And what we get out there, one of them tell me crime will be thing of the past in how much days, 120 days or whatever they were saying too. What become of that? Under Kamala Persati's sister, let me tell you how bad the crime was. And she could say what the hell she wants. Under Kamala Persati's sister, it's the worst in the history of Trinidad and Tobago. Here what happened? You had a high-ranking judicial officer who was brutally executed in the streets of Forest Bay. Somebody called a hit on her, and the person didn't care who she was, what she was, when she was, why she was. All they know is that she has to die. I ain't seen no fella from Labanti doing that. I ain't seen no criminal on the low level doing that. I see that shot called from white-collar criminals. There must be a reason why they want her dead, and it was properly well executed. Now, the police and them had reasons to gather evidence and information. The information into evidence to put forward a bill of case, pass it to the DPP, and the DPP to say to charge these fellas and them. So they before the court now, until they prove me innocent or they prove me guilty. So by the meantime, while they before the court, we also looking at these guys and them was beneficiaries of life sport. A project that was costing something like, I think it was $8 million max, that ended up to over $200, $300 million just missing, cannot be accounted for. And the line minister said he know nothing about that and he don't think. And when the audit report was generated before Kamala Persati's senior counsel and the prime minister at the time, before she did the right thing, and pass that report to the police before she utter anything from that report to let the police get a full report on it and investigate the matter. She called me. So that report was scrapped and they had to start over something. Right now they're catching the tail because everybody cover tracks. So what the information that the police has, they can't get the evidence because people destroy the evidence. And that is how Kamala Pasabi says a fourth crime. And she would have done that. And then now you look at the matter that happened in Frederick Street Prison. While you have prisoners, first time in the history of Trinidad and Tobago, prisoners breaking out of the jail, worse than Bonnie and Clyde. Break out of the jail with hand grenades and weapons, and an on-duty policeman outside the prison doing his duty, guarding for things like that, was murdered by the prisoner. Shootout in the middle of Port of Spain, people at the top on the ground, lie down flat with bullets flying left, right, and center, and they end up where? Right in the same hospital where the police cornered the prisoner and had to do what they had to do, take him down. Right? But today they can tell me about the murder in the hospital, and the minister must go, and this must be that and that. And they can talk and they can beat the chest and they can think, but when you look at what happened under their tenure, it was about 100 times worse. Criminals were rewarded for what they do. You had Color Me Orange. When you look at the people who were there, you had contracts given out to build Brock trains and to do things and that and whatever, and it was going to who? According to Police Commissioner Gary Griffith, who did tell me the monies was going to. So Pamela and them can't talk about them things. So now that she comes to support the bail amendment, but she comes smart, and that's why she did that. She alone talk, don't let the others talk on it. Because she don't want the response from the government side. And when people spoke, because the things that we spoke about and the things that you spoke about, obviously the other side will raise it to tell them, so then why all you only did to support the bill? Because what you all say now is you all were saying it's a different tune then. So that's one of the reasons why she's saying it. And after what you said, she knows that if she becomes prime minister, she needs something to help with her crime. And she knows that is a great tool to help with the crime. Well, Dominic, boy, I want to hear the other people that want to say too. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to put across my side of the facts.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hello, good morning. Hello.
Morning.
Hi, morning.
Morning. This is Big Sister here.
This is who?
Oh, God,
Hello.
Sister, leave there, sister.
Ah. I was wondering how come he called.
Oh, he just stepped out. He was your mother's lady calling him down. Tell us, lady, stop calling him. What on your sweet thing calling him?
Oh boy.
This man knows he doesn't want to talk about it. Like two times that needs somebody. Taking them all the time. That's all I call them up to the project. That's get boring after that. All right, darling.
All right. Thank you. Oh Lord. Yes, sir.
What's going on?
All is well.
Okay, boy.
Yes, sir.
Dominic,
Yes, sir.
let me ask you a question. You know, we're not very good.
Uh-huh.
Dominic, that 2-year contract, Stuart going to be boosted to get the gas. Who do you get that from?
OFAC.
Where OFAC is based?
OFAC is in the US and that falls under the US, I think, is the Treasury Department.
OFAC is in the US. Dominic?
Yes, sir.
I rest my case.
Mm-hmm.
And I will be with you.
All right. Right. What's the time now? 8:44. Brian, call me back. In the meantime, let me just touch on this quickly, right? Brian. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead. Good morning, Dominic.
Morning.
Go ahead and touch on your stuff,
Huh?
if you want.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Touch on something. Hello?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
You wanted to touch on something before you took my call?
No. Go ahead.
Good morning to your listeners and callers.
Morning.
Dominic, I would like to say once again, thank God that Trinidad and to a certain extent Tobago has been bypassed by the hurricane at category 4. And I hope that I know a lot of damage has been done on the island, including parts of Grenada and its dependencies and so on. And it's now a category 5 heading directly for Jamaica. And we must be mindful of what the damage that these hurricanes do. Because if you recall Dominica,
Yes.
when it devastated Dominica, and the Honorable Prime Minister asked that the children be allowed to come here temporarily to go to school, and the big euphoria and uproar that we had in Trinidad from certain quarters, that we didn't have room for those children and don't allow them to come here.
Yes.
Remember that?
I do.
But today, we're making arrangements to accept the Venezuelan children. Think about these things a little bit. Strange, but we have room today. We didn't have, and this is for permanent, permanency. It's not a temporary thing.
Yes.
That was what the Honorable Prime Minister had asked for, was something temporary. We didn't have the room, but today we have the room for accept students on a permanent basis.
Yes.
Okay? Just a note that I'll keep in my mind. Dominic, you stole my thunder a bit, but I was gathering my notes with respect to what is happening right now with the opposition over the last week or so in the Parliament. Because you reminded us of some of the issues as it pertains to what transpired a couple of years back and so on, leading up to just last week.
Yes.
And that indicates to me, as I was telling a friend of mine, that there is chaos and your UNC has collapsed. And that Kamala Persad-Bissessar is not in control of the UNC, and therefore you cannot go from a total 180 2 years ago. Because I could recall, just like you, when the member for Oropuch East Command was talking about he and Saddam Hussein, we're talking about this thing look like I said a binary number 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, and made a big joke out of it with respect to the bail amendment, I believe it was. Yes? And that's why they couldn't support it, because there was no evidence, they said at the time, that it was actually working. And they made a big joke in the Parliament. And the government was coming here and taking away the rights of the people, right, when there was no evidence to show that the bail amendment bill was in fact working. And then when it went to the Senate, I remember the leader of the independent bench, or the coordinator as they call him, or whatever it is they call him, did not support the bill. I recall that distinctly. Now, since then, because you see, Dominic, I told you I was going to talk about it, is because you and I are not the only ones who listen to the parliamentary channel. You agree with me?
Mm-hmm.
There are others out there who listen to the parliamentary channel as well. And that is why when the Attorney General brought the data to the Parliament, you saw how recurring that people were doubling down on illegal things, and that is why it had risen to over 50%.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're saying, well, look at that. No bail amendment bill passed, so therefore I could go there and do my thing, and if even they catch me, I will get bail, I'll come back out and do it again and be a repeat offender. So we ended up with over a 50% increase. And who are the people have to be ducking for cover and refusing to come to Port of Spain because they're frightened, because the government is doing nothing? Now people will begin to see, wait now, hold on. 2 years now we blaming the PNM government of not doing anything about crime. And when we were attempting to explain to them, hey, listen, the most the government can do is what they do when they get to the Parliament. And that the opposition, although they're not the executive, are also part and parcel of the government, and they have a part to play. Nobody wants to take it on. What changed now? They must come out and tell us what changed. And I am of the firm view that Rai Ragbear and to a certain extent the others have created such a chaotic situation in the UNC that Kamala Prasad decided, see me, I alone better talk. Then others better get up and say nothing. You understand? So now she's trying to save face because she believes elections round the corner. You understand? And she needs to win. And she can't win if the others get up and speak in opposition and they don't speak, attempt to look as though they are unified. And therein lies her problem. Because Rai Ragbear decided, listen, I have the empirical evidence to bring to you whenever you want to come and explain myself. I know going to be Russia, Paris, and the rest of them at this point in time. But the whole point of the matter is the UNC has collapsed and are in disarray. I am totally convinced of that. So therefore, if I'm to be proven wrong, we will then see, because it's up another 52 plus weeks before the general election is called, and therefore we're going to see how many more bills they're going to be brought to Parliament and they're going to either support or not support. Because I can't understand, 2 years ago this was the worst bill and this, that, and the other, and all of a sudden, hey, guess what? This same bail amendment bill could pass with a full majority from the House. It is really, really amazing. You understand? And you see too, it doesn't only end there, Dominic. Simply because even though it may be assented to and so on, we still have the judiciary.
Yes.
We still have a problem, in other words, because they could use their discretion whenever a matter comes up before them.
Yep.
And therein lies the other problem that we have. Because when you see, not only in that instance as well, we have certain issues that are not being dealt with. Look at, for example, they spoke about Tobago. You recall the matter with the expose, when they were at any propaganda thing, and there was an expose on it, and it was the recorded information that everybody heard, the whole world
Audiogate.
heard about it.
Audiogate.
Yes. Why is that matter today? Why is that investigation? Have we forgotten about it? Huh? So you have to ask yourself these questions.
Yes.
And you have to ask what you name is the Assistant Commissioner Hazel. Hey,
yes.
Yo, what's going on with that matter? We have everybody heard the evidence. But where's that matter? And how many more matters that we have before the court that have been there for years? You have spoken about a plethora of them. You understand? Prison Gate and all of these other matters. Where are these matters today? And therefore, even though this amendment bill would have been passed successfully for another time around in the parliament, we still have other issues after that because the government can only do that amount. And after that, it goes to the other set of people who need to get it to ensure that justice is done. And how is that going to happen? Who are we to blame this time? We go blame the government again? And that's why I am of the firm view that there are people in this country, right, supported by the opposition, I must admit, because they weren't supporting anything up to just last week, you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
So you had the repeat offenders saying, well, I will go in and come back out. We've spoken about this at length, ad nauseum. People dying on the streets in broad daylight in Port of Spain and all over the place. People being shot even down in San Fernando here. Somebody, the lady, who was so afraid to stay home that she went to stay by her boyfriend in Mr. Bella, and look at what happened to her in the morning, 7 o'clock. Because she was marked for death. So what are we still doing with our judiciary? What are they doing? All of a sudden, no, these big talk numbers about everybody want a red bag over the shoulder. But at the end of the day, all those attorneys who have matters before the court, because I have been to court and heard that when they're deciding on another date, that they all have to agree with when the judge says, what about so-and-so date? Much obliged. They agree. But is it that they agree when they know they have another matter on that same set date? And then when that matter comes up, they don't turn up and it's put off again because it's a law clerk to say that there was another matter somewhere else. And the cycle continues. When are we going to put an end to that? And those are some of my concerns that respect to even though, as I said, to repeat myself for a third time, the government is doing what they're supposed to do. At the end of the day, we have another part of the system that needs to be fixed. Otherwise, you will still have people languishing in these jails. And you know what's amazing about what you spoke about with respect to 2013, when they got the report and it wasn't laid in the parliament? They took $80 million and they built they said they were going to do something about the jails and so on. And they built a big fence and nothing went wrong.
$88 million.
Exactly. Because when you brought it up, I say, well, they did something, Dominic. They built a fence. Yeah, they built a fence. And not to come wrong now, years later, to be talking about the rights of these people inside of there, and something not being done, nothing is being done by Heinz. Heinz lazy and Heinz this and Heinz that. But with them, money just disappearing. And they're saying they do. But money disappearing. Same thing when you house with the member for Oropuchis. $789 million, but not a brick or a mortar to show for it. You understand? So something was done here, the bill of fence. And that's the end of that. And now they're calling on this government now. Because see, Dominic, if we don't remind the people, if you don't remind the people of something that was done during their term, we won't remember. Many of us won't. And I'm certain that those who listened to you this morning would have been surprised because they say, oh, shucks, that way, there really was an investigation and a report. And what did they do? Nothing but them talking today? Really? And it's why when you see, Dominic, when they can't respond to you, they go all over the place. Because they have nothing to add and they cannot defend it. And therein lies the problem in this country. But they have collapsed. And she is afraid to continue in the same vein she has been continuing for the last almost 9 years. Because she doesn't know. Because they can't sit up, So she don't know who will get up and say, hey, I don't agree with you. And if there should be another vote where they say no, and the others who sit now behind her come and say yes. But now people can say, hey, here what's going on. Trouble in the camp. But there is trouble. I'm of the firm view of it, and they are trying to hide it. But there are those of us who are seeing it for what it really is. They have collapsed, and they are in trouble. She is in trouble, and she's concerned. You only have to look on, and we will see. Have a good day, my friend.
You too, sir. So it is 8:58. Yeah, so I was supposed to jump off early, but yeah, these things happen. Just one thing I wanted to touch on before I leave. Just saw this article. Tobago fishermen upset with Rowley. Tobago fisher folks say they suffered minimal losses as Hurricane Beryl passed just north of the island early yesterday morning, but they were left upset and disappointed by the Prime Minister not offering advice to the people of Tobago, as initially the hurricane was set to directly hit the island. Fishermen said yesterday Buko fishermen were busy bailing out water out of their vessels in the heavy rains and rough seas. Fishermen said the boat that began to sink at Buko was saved in the nick of time. Curtis Douglas, head of the All Tobago Fisher Folk Association, said he plans on making personal checks in the various fishing communities as soon as the storm conditions ease. Douglas said fishermen who heeded the warnings and followed the advice of the FTA managed to prevent their vessels from suffering. Right. He said after also provided backhoes for fishermen to dry dock their pirogues, but he said not everyone heeded the advice. Douglas said there was a fisherman's fete on Sunday in Charlottesville, and fishermen in that community chose to do their own thing. If they didn't see it fit to pull up their boats to the sand, there's only so much we can do. And we can put things in place, but we cannot make them adhere. He said he was disappointed that Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley did not address the people of Tobago. Douglas claimed Tobagonians felt slighted by this. Tobago was under hurricane watch, and the Prime Minister of the Republic of TNT didn't see it fit to address the nation, or more so, Tobago in this time of challenge. I am really disappointed. Tobagonians are disappointed, he said. Douglas said he was not against Minister of Rural Development and Local Government Faris Al-Rawi, stating that public servants had to report to work, but hearing nothing from the Prime Minister had left him angry. We are very much disappointed and disgruntled by the behavior of the Prime Minister by not addressing the nation at this time. He wanted the Prime Minister to address the nation and say what? There was a press conference that was held by not one, not two, not three, but 4 ministers of cabinet. 4 ministers who would have articulated the government's position. You wanted the Prime Minister to do what? And since the other day, about a week or 2 ago, when they had an interview, I think it was on TV6 or something like that, and they interviewed the head of the Fisher Folk Association in Tobago, and he was talking about the vessel, because I think attempts were made to move the vessel or something, so that was leaking fuel, and there was a subsequent leak, not very big, and they held a press conference, and this guy was very critical and know that they disrespectful to the Fisher Folk, and he wanted government and all kind of thing. And I realized someday he has an agenda, right? Clearly, this gentleman has an agenda. I don't know who it is he think he's fooling, but to make the assertion that it is that the government was trying to, that was something to the effect that the government was trying to spike the Fisher Folk or something, they are trying to remove the vessel to bring this issue to an end once and for all. I don't understand, I said, but you're upset with the Prime Minister. Farley Augustine, who you all consider to be the Prime Minister of Tobago, Farley Augustine, who has told Dr. Rowley on more than one occasion to stay out of Tobago business, Farley Augustine, who is on record as having said he not taken no advice from anybody from Trinidad, right? Farley, who was always calling PNM enslaved sycophants. You wanted the Prime Minister to upstage him? All who given him praises now for what he did as Chief Secretary. That was his job. He is the Chief Secretary for Tobago, and you all consider him like the Prime Minister of Tobago. Always talking about the government of Tobago and the government of Tobago. You all don't want to hear Dr. Rowley on other matters, so you wanted him to come and specifically speak to and address Tobago and say what? Give commiserations? To repeat what it is his ministers would have said at their press conference? So this thing about you all upset because as if, and if it is the Prime Minister had come and spoken about and addressed Tobago, or as the case may be, plenty of them, like Bernie Jack Reg and whatnot, would have run to do a live afterwards to criticize the Prime Minister. Because that is what they do. Every time he holds a press conference, they always have to do a running commentary after to criticize what it is he said. So what is the point? You wanted him to give advice, but here it is the same individual is saying that you had fishermen who wanted to do their own thing. They know that they're hearing hurricane, category 4. Tobago may be in its path, somewhat, and chose to leave their boats outside. So you're seeing video footage now where when the rough water starts and boats looking to head out, man had to be running out in that cold water and the pouring rain trying to see if it is they can rescue their boat. But common sense would tell you, how come the fisher folk in Trinidad are complaining? So you all needed for the Prime Minister to come and tell you, let's go and dry dock your boats? Come on now, man. You all can't be serious. You're all taking this thing to the extreme, to the ridiculous now. There was a press conference by 4 government ministers. I don't know what else it is that you all want. The Prime Minister to come and say what? How would that have changed the price of flour or the price of bread? You all would have been dismissive of anything that he said anyway. So what's the point? Look, miss me with this nonsense. Yes, I'm gonna just take this last call here because it's done already after 9 o'clock. Eric.
Good morning to you, Mr. Robin. Good morning to the listeners, the callers, facts and stubborn things on this Tuesday morning. Right. First of all, let me say thanks God that the hurricane that would have passed, it did not cause much damage, destruction in the Caribbean. Unfortunately, karaoke wasn't so lucky. But nevertheless, our hearts and minds from this page, the mountain, and like Jenny said, everything goes out to the people of karaoke. And I know that before I continue, Dr. They're going to chastise Dr. Rowley because Dr. Rowley said the government is ready and willing to assist any nation that needs assistance, right? Mm-hmm. They know the government and say, the Prime Minister, no, they say the Prime Minister, they say Rowley going to help the Caribbean people outside Trinidad and Tobago, but here, he can't help them here because people suffering. That is the first thing they're going to chop out and say, yeah? Mm-hmm. And the first thing they're going to say, but nevertheless, the late Manning did the same thing, and that is how PNM leaders and prime ministers operate in the midst of turbulence and disasters at our Caribbean neighbors. The PNM government and leaders does lend a helping hand. Who can we call that the then Prime Minister Kamala Services jump up and say what? Trinidad and Tobago that ATM machine. When I think when a hurricane would have hit one of those Caribbean islands, yes, when she was there, you jump up and say that Trinidad and Tobago is not an ATM machine, but you want to run the game with the Guyana. All you miss with that BS now. You understand? Kamala Prasad, the CESA and the UNC is a dismal failure in this country. I will keep repeating it. The reason why, Dominic, that these people voted for that bill yesterday, because it comes on the heel that Dr. Rai Rabe would have come out and say it had corruption in the Sanya Grande Corporation and the 6 other corporations that they held. So they realize now, by voting for that bill, it's going to suppress the electorate and giving the electorate the trust that they want, so they can go forward in the election next year. But you see, may I remind them, you can fool people who look like Ole and Ole waterfront ilk. We will never forget that 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days under your tenure, Kamala Prasad, that they had African people in this country under siege, under problems, right? The rank on the SOE, right? The same people who your supporters and your activists call it all kind of nasty and derogatory name on social media and all over the place. It's the same sort of people that all want to come to get the vote from for next year. No, let me make it make sense. These people are so, I don't know, I want to use the word right now. You understand? They have no shame. You understand? None whatsoever.
And as to Fale Tobago, Brian, right now Tobagonians waiting for Fale next year. They're waiting for Fale. Right? They're waiting for Fale. Fale disgusting. You understand? Because they want to chastise Dr. Rowley. Oh, he gonna make a press conference. So Dominic, why there's a Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development? Why there's a Ministry of Public Utilities? Why there's a Ministry of Roads and Transport? And these other ministries. So these ministers cannot come out and have a press conference without the Prime Minister being there. So they want the Prime Minister to come and regurgitate what them say. So they say, well, yes, the Prime Minister talk on behalf of no Tobagonians. They have different ministers and different ministries that they will be held under to come out and give press conference relative to the disaster which will have passed the last 2 days or so. But you see, they wanted to be relevant there. So they're trying all semantics, right? To try to show stand in the Prime Minister rights there. You understand? Now, I read some posts on social media, Dominic, and it really irks me. It's that one called Kirian Singh, right? He posts on his profile something about our next, well, when is the next big earthquake? So this is me. I said, these are people that only want to have to govern this country and only talking about this kind of thing. Because people don't really wishing that this disaster would have caused so much of a problem, so they have something to say about the government wasn't ready and it was ill-equipped and every looking and can, but as I always say, at the end of the day, it's not the government to blame, it's ourselves. We have to prepare ourselves. So you want the government to come and tell you to prepare? Really? You know 6 months annually, June to December, November annually. It's not now, that's going on years now. So why, come on, let me make sense. But if it's to a boat ride party or a storm, whether it's a storm watch party or whatever, there is nothing for yourself there. I tell you something, let me tell you something. This country have a lot of praying people. Despite what is going on in the country today, it have a lot of praying people in this country. And God realized, let me hold my hand with these people. Because it have people who genuine. You understand? But it have people in here that take things for granted. And they always say, too late shall be the cry. So let me sit down and say, well, you have the way, there's a voice actually, and then we will see. You understand? But with that being said, I think Dominic, the opposition right now have a serious implosion. On the heels of Ryan Beryl being supported of the government with Beryl, the leader of that so-called opposition decided, you know what? Let me support them now. So at least the electorate could see that, the thing. Them just do that because they want, but they're still supporting the party anyhow. So it don't matter whether they support it or not, they're still supporting the party. And although go on the page, they will put up the voting with all of them reaction to that bill where they support yesterday. And I will see how they reacted. Right? But anyway, Dominic, good program as usual. Right? And blessed everybody. You'll be safe.
Thank you, sir. Right, so it is 9:13 actually. So, yeah. So, folks, as always, thank you for joining me this morning. We will continue the discussion on this issue on Thursday, God's willing. Yeah. I just saw the article posted by The Guardian here. There's some things in it which I would like to touch on with respect to the opposition's decision. I would encourage the government to, since the UNC seems to be on a wave of support for legislation, bring back the anti-gang legislation and let's see what they're going to do. Yeah, bring it back. And let's see if they will support that or if they will shoot it down. But as several callers have said, the opposition leader is hanging on for their life, and so the supporters say, well, now the UNC support the bill, and we see who Rowley got blamed for crime, blah, 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 whatever. Folks, thank you again, as always, Ruth Fontaine, Nadia, Lewis, Dixon, thank you so much, Elizabeth, Darrell, Williams, Will Durant, all of you guys, Dion Lewis, Roxanne, King, Priscilla Holder, thank you all. So God's willing, we will chat again on Thursday morning. Yeah, so let's see what happens over the course of the next 2 days. And all in Tobago, behave well yourself now. Behave well yourself now. Pick a struggle. Is either all you want Dr. Rowley in all your business or you don't want him in all your business. Your chief secretary telling him stay out of Tobago business, and then when it is he takes the advice, right? From chief secretary to stay out of Tobago business. All you come in to tell him all you want him in Tobago business. They're confused with. Folks, Thursday. Enjoy the day and make it a productive one.